Previously on Conversation Street.
Michael, have you seen... Oh. Where's he gone? Wait a minute. What is this?
Hi everyone. Now, every soap needs a good villain. Alan Bradley, Pat Phelan, Richard Hillman there. Coronation Street's road gallery is literally bursting with black-hearted baddies, and in this video, the final in the series where we rate all 373 of Corrie's regulars, we're going to be focusing on these fiendish felons. As usual, we'll be using Corriepedia's Ultimate Character Survey to help guide us. If you've not voted yet, the polls close on the 21st of August, so get in there quick, time is running out. Speaking of which, where was I?
Oh my god, we've reached the final part.
The
best
doing this
bit.
so much.
This is the bit where we've all been waiting for, isn't it?
I don't know why Corriepedia decided to put the villains separate to all the rest.
But what a great idea. Honestly,
yeah.
this is like the icing on the top of the cake for me.
This could turn out to be like the longest video, and these videos have been getting longer and longer. I don't know how that's happened. I mean, it's not been too long ago since we did a middle section about Coronation Street villains on the normal podcast, didn't we? So I almost feel like we need to restrain ourselves from repeating the same old stuff here, otherwise this is going to just go on forever. I mean, even this first character, look, I don't know what order they've got these in particularly, but Pat Phelan, number 1 on their villains list. I mean, it's going to be a 5, isn't it? It's just how much do we want to talk about this?
Yeah. Oh, how much what can you say apart from he is a 5 out of 5 character?
The jury is still out among some people about whether he or Hillman are the best Coronation Street villains ever, the most iconic ones, and some people absolutely hated the Pat Phelan drama. We are the complete opposite of that, and we're not alone. Other people really enjoyed it too. It was fantastic, it was gripping, it had twists all the way through. Conor McIntyre was such a fantastic actor. He brought that character to life. He was chilling, he was charismatic. The twists, the quotes.
The thing is, just like all the best Coronation Street villains, you have more than a little sympathy and empathy for what he is going through. And
that's true. He wasn't one-dimensional.
The same with Richard Hillman. They almost become their own victims, and both in Richard Hillman's case and in Pat Phelan's case, you can totally see that they were the extra victim. Like he died at the hands of his enemy Anna Windass, but he before he did, he shot his own daughter in a fit of rage. Every time he tried to do something, he was thwarted. He had this kind of religious bent to him, but.
Well, I liked it how when they brought him in, he was just a nasty guy, wasn't he? But he was no murderer, and for a long time, Coronation Street kept that up, that he wouldn't kill somebody, and then he watched Michael die.
Well, this is what I've said before. Conor McIntyre calls it crossing the Rubicon, and he mentions it quite a lot. I've seen it before in my own personal experiences of watching people who I know personally descend into some kind of bad situation by just pushing some situation much further than they would do, pushing it beyond the bounds that anyone would allow, and then stepping back. And then the next time the situation crops up, they push a bit further. And every time, if you just push the boundaries a little, but you do it often enough, you'll get yourself into the situation where you are doing outrageous things that everybody else considers to be completely immoral, but you have eroded your own personal sense of what is wrong and right, little by little, till you're doing what Pat Phelan ends up doing, which is killing people.
Or getting people to kill other people
well,
for
listen,
him.
I mean, the order of descent was, he watched someone die, then he got somebody to kill somebody else, and then he killed that person for killing somebody. Then he killed an innocent person, and I think that is a very important.
The whole
ladder,
story was so well plotted out,
and this is why when you say to me that you think Gary is not necessarily going to be a villain who kills people, I say he is definitely on the road of being a classic Corrie villain, where you step by step find yourself descending into. I think he could. I think you're right to say there's still a question about it. But I'm gonna say, if he does end up being a cold-blooded killer, the first step was smashing Rick Neelan's head in and stealing his watch.
Not dropping a roof on Rana's head.
Well, yeah, there you go. See.
Okay, let's move on, because as I say, we could talk about Pat Phelan for ages. We did a whole episode dedicated to it. He's the only character that we've done a whole dedicated feature-length episode on, isn't it? He was just awesome. That was a real golden age for me, at least, and you.
Oh yeah.
Up next, we've got Anne Malone, Ice Queen of Coronation Street, mostly known for her death in Furman's freezers. She went to try and plant some evidence against Curly, I think, in the freezers, but ended up getting trapped in there and didn't get out. But
what a great name, Eve Steele.
I know, it's cool, isn't it? Cool as steel. She's been interesting to me because I've been watching her on the ITV3 episode. She popped up a lot earlier on the show than I thought she did, because it was, I would say, fairly late 90s that she ended up meeting her maker. But it was 1995, I think, that she first made her first appearance on Coronation Street. And so far, she's been perfectly innocent. She's been a nice girl. She was kind of fretting about Percy Sugden, who she thought was being a dirty old man with her in the shop, and now she's seeing Andy. There's no traces of villainy yet, so I'm looking forward to seeing what her descent was, because as I said, I'd totally forgotten about this. You've not seen anything to do with her.
I don't know anything about her.
I'm going to give her a 3 just because she had an iconic exit, but really there's not much to write home about there with Anne Malone. Dez Quigley is another one that you don't know anything of. You know the name. He's got a great villainous name. Just look at that face. He looks like it. You don't want to get on his bad side, do you? Again, fairly good death. Got beaten up by Jim McDonald, and then his spleen erupted or something at the hospital. I don't remember. As somebody who was only in the show for quite a short period of time, I think he came into it for like 1 or 2 episodes and then returned again a few years later. He's surprisingly well remembered by the Corrie fandom, because he really was a nasty, slimy piece of work. And when Phelan first came into it, I drew comparisons with Dez Quigley. He really did nasty very, very well. He was a drug dealer.
It's really weird, because to me, like...
He took Leanne down a dark path.
Dez Quigley has just come some kind of, like, boogeyman, kind of like a legendary boogeyman that I don't believe is a real person. A lot like I felt about the old characters in the 60s, where I knew that they had a great history, but I didn't know much about them.
When we get to the 90s on the DVD, firstly, how much of him we'll see, because he was in so few episodes. It could be that we don't see much of him at all, but what we do say of him, what will you think? I think one of his most iconic scenes was when he lured Steve down into an underground garage, and he was there with his gangsters, and he was like, "Steve McDonald, come on down." He was.
What did he do?
I beat him up.
No, but in general, he was a drug dealer.
Drugs. Yeah, he arranged for the Rovers to be done over at the Millennium, and
don't really have very many drug storylines in Corrie. The only thing we ever had was like the Robert used to be a druggie.
Well, Callum was a druggie. That was drug.
No, he wasn't a druggie. He was a drug dealer. Michael,
yeah.
Don't get high on your own supply.
No, I know. What about
you know, do you?
Is he?
I don't think we talk about it.
Let's not go there. 3 for Dez Quigley, and also Lee Boardman shares a birthday with me, so that kicks him.
What do you get each other?
Cred or something. Right, now I'll let you talk about this.
Oh my God, I love this man. The golden-throated Lothario, Lewis Archer, who knows how to make the perfect Bellini. What better way to a woman's heart? A bit of a sad ending. In the same way that I think that they kind of weren't too good with Pat Phelan's ending, actually. I think that they flubbed Lewis Archer's ending.
They didn't need to bring him back.
They didn't need to bring him back or kill him, because Nigel Havers is still going. He would be great to bring him back every now and then. I'm sad that he's died.
It brought about the Who Stole Archie's Money story, which had its. It was all right, wasn't it?
It was fine. It caused a lot of plot drama.
Yeah.
I don't think that was enough. That was good enough reason to sacrifice Lewis Archer.
But he was so much fun while he was alive. quite different from a lot of the other Corrie villains.
There's
like
no one else
the
like
gruff,
him. He
gruff,
hasn't killed
tough.
anybody. All he did was seduce old women and get them to give him cash.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, women do that enough with old men. Why not get one back?
He must have been so much fun to write for.
He is like one for equality, isn't he?
Yeah. That video that he left Gail was his defining moment.
Peak Archer.
Yeah, Weezer face.
I think the other thing that bothers me a little bit about the ending of Lewis Archer is that we never really got proper closure with him and Audrey, because we know he loved her, and it wasn't really until the holiday when she realised what had happened that she really understood that Lewis loved her all along.
I still don't.
And I don't really think I ever got a scene where Audrey just went, "My God, that he was the only man that was." And I really wanted that. Even his funeral was a bit of a stupid.
No, I thought his funeral was funny.
No, but it was funny. But I didn't get closure for Lewis and Audrey. And I'm going to say that Lewis and Audrey are a better tragic love story than Romeo and Juliet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Strong words.
Going on record with
I
that.
would say again his first exit, he had many exits, but the one when he left after the video, and he left those flowers at Audrey's house, when she came back home and she found them, and he'd written a sweet message to her because she sort of saying that you were the only one for me, or something along those lines. That was a really sweet way to have ended it. And although I was excited to see him return, he wasn't really in it enough, and then he was gone. What are you going to give him? Four,
definitely.
Okay, right. Who we got up next? We have Donovan. Rob Donovan. Mark Bayliss. I mean, not really a villain through most of the time in his show. He was a bit of a wrong 'un. He was a bit of a dodgy dealer, wasn't he? He is the
he was a kind of
antagonist for Carla.
Isn't it?
Stole some of her silk one time.
When you say that it's true that one of the defining traits of a Coronation Street villain is that they're slightly hapless. They can never triumph.
Sometimes.
They can't ever triumph because the story of Coronation Street at its very heart is fundamentally good will triumph over evil. They're very plain about that, and they've said it before. Like if you've done something wrong, you'll get punished. And so the Coronation Street villains, to get a bit of sympathy, their descent has to be a little bit accidental, and their plans can never really go as they should do, because otherwise they would win in the end, and then our heroes.
He didn't plan to kill Tina.
Exactly, that's what I mean by hapless.
Yeah.
They just kind of get forced into situations where they decide to kill somebody or do something horrible. I mean, Lewis Archer's probably the only one who was properly in control of what he was doing, and it felt as though he had a plan.
I mean, that's Pat Phelan.
Think about Rob. No, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
He had a plan. He knew it.
He had a plan, but it was But he this is what I said. Every time he did something, he pushed himself a bit further, and he never, at the beginning of it, he never would have thought he would have ended up as he did. But because he pushed himself a little further every time, he could, by the end of it, kill somebody in cold blood.
Well, we'll see.
That's what I mean by hapless.
As we go
and Rob Donovan, he thought he was going to run away with Tracy, and then he got dobbed in. He never saw that coming.
True. Now, we're not just rating these as villains, remember, we're rating them as characters.
Rob Donovan looks really confused by everything I've just said.
What do you? I'm kind of going around the threes for him.
Yeah, he was
not, okay.
He's not going to go down in history.
No.
But I did enjoy him, and I think Mark Bayliss is great, and
I think that they threw away a potentially really good relationship between him and Tracy as well.
I know, the thing is, we've probably said this before, she loves Steve, but I think that her and Rob were her best chance of happiness.
Yeah, I think you're right. Terry Duckworth.
Oh dear.
The perennial bad penny on Coronation Street. He was okay. I mean, I think at the time he was, proper villain, but he's since been eclipsed by many other bigger, better Coronation Street villains. I did like that how he kept coming back, and Vera still always would believe him, and Jack was saying no, he's a bad one, Vera, and she's like, oh, but Jack, he's our son. Selling his son, unforgivable, running away from his wedding, agreeing to donate his kidney to his son, and then scarpering and leaving Vera to do it. He did a lot of bad stuff. But as I say, we're not judging them as villains; we're judging them as characters. And he was all right. I'd like him to return just because it feels like he's the character that always returns. But
like Jim,
looking back on him, he's okay.
The thing is, a lot of what makes him a compelling Coronation Street character is his relation to the Duckworths. If he was just any old character, it wouldn't be quite as poignant. But because he is the son of a beloved couple, it adds an extra layer of finesse.
Yeah, let's give him a 3.
Yeah,
and move hastily on.
I mean, you can't compare somebody who tried to open a nightclub with somebody who killed someone.
Tony Gordon.
Now, can you go down a bit further? Yeah, I thought so. Tony Gordon and Frank Foster...
They were cut from the same cloth.
Are like an amalgamation in my mind. I find it difficult to differentiate one from the other, and they just turn into this big blubbering mass of a man who got shot up, pushed down the stairs by his mother and then set on fire by Carla Connor somehow, even though she was tied up. I can't remember.
Yeah.
They were very similar. And this is what
Siege.
I said earlier about when I said about the Luke Strong, like a series of very samey factory bosses who were all just, I'm a businessman.
I think he was scarier.
I'm at the business factory.
Than this guy. He was slimy and he was cold.
Well, he was a rapist.
Yeah, and he was the one when he raped Carla and afterwards said, "You made me do it," or something like that, didn't he?
But you see, Andrew Lancel, I like him from The Bill.
Yeah.
And Gray O'Brien, I can't remember what else he was in.
I don't remember him being in other things before.
But I think both of these actors have got a gravitas to them, don't you think?
Yes.
They've got a charisma to them, which makes them really good in the role of factory boss.
Mm. He was. They're both involved with Maria in some way, weren't they? It was almost like they were trying to remake Tony Gordon when they brought Frank Foster along.
for how the story would go, and then they did one, and they thought this was another really good idea. We should just do this one again. That's how it felt to me. It
feels to me.
They came after each other.
And if I put my score in, feel free to change it. But I would say 4 for Tony and 3 for Frank. I just think that he had a bit more going for him. Tony did. He was a bit more charismatic, a bit more memorable, a bit scarier. His story felt fresher, and Frank was just a bit duller. I don't think he quite had the charisma of Tony, and charisma and being charismatic is important for me when I'm judging my Corrie villains. What say you?
I agree. I mean, I really liked the whodunit with Frank, but they screwed it up by trying to trick everybody. And they thought they were cleverer than they were because everybody knew it was his mum.
Which of these suspects is it?
None of them.
We know it's none of them.
It's his mum.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on from these two then. Alan Bradley.
I can't.
You can't judge that, and even I have watched the Alan Bradley saga, but I mean it was a good 20 years ago, so it's difficult for me to judge. Obviously, he's very famous for his death. Before Richard Hillman came along, I would say that Alan Bradley was the ultimate Coronation Street villain for his control of Rita. He was violent. He was nasty. He lied. He tried to rape his secretary. He remortgaged the house under Len's name. But yeah. I don't know. I think he has been eclipsed. But maybe when we get to the second half of the 80s on our DVD rewatch and we get to see him, we'll know what it was that made him so iconic back in the day. Because at the moment he's not really up there for me. But even so, I think it'd be an insult to the character to give him less than a 4 because. He's up there, isn't he?
You got to think about it in context of the time as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, he might be eclipsed by modern standards, but of the time.
Yeah, I think
yeah, 4.
I think 4 because
he's
not one of my personal favourites, but credit where credit's due, and Alan Bradley is a classic Coronation Street villain. Unlike our next entrant, Kaz.
Funny. Kaz was just another hapless idiot, wasn't she? He tried
She was
manipulating
dull.
people and lied about being discharged from the army and too. I don't think if you can't really remember
generous.
what the story was and why. What she was up to.
She was Kate's girlfriend.
I know
She
was Kate's girlfriend.
She didn't see much of her because she was in the army.
Tried to get her to marry her.
Yeah.
And felt sorry for her and stuff. And
then she went a bit
lied
crazy
about things. Yeah.
Yeah, not great. Well, I mean, five obviously.
5.
I don't know whether we want to talk too much about him, but this was the story that really hooked you into Coronation Street.
The funny thing about it is that his driving everybody into the canal to the You and Me song is the most iconic scene in Coronation Street history. But when they played that scene back in the archives from the Coronation Street Villains clip show, they didn't play the You and Me song, so I don't think they had the rights to play it, which is funny.
I'm sure they would. I don't know why it was.
Why would they cut it out?
No, I don't know.
That songwriter's a bit weird, Michael. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Because it was an important part of the scene. Because it was like a trendy pop song. That was like one of the biggest hits of the time, wasn't it?
I don't know.
It was definitely a massive song in the 90s.
Yeah. This was gripping. This was a gripping saga that went over the course of a year or two in the same way as the Phelan one did. But Kate Oates with Phelan pushed it darker, more sensational, and that's why some people say no, Richard Hillman's story is still the gold standard because Pat Phelan went to, he
was more Corrie-ish, and Pat Phelan definitely did change what it meant to be a Coronation Street villain, which you can say he created a new standard, or you can say that he went beyond what is acceptable.
Crossed the Rubicon.
5 out of 5 for
5 out of
Richard
5
Hillman.
Easily. He, as I say, he was one of your earliest stories that you remember, isn't he? And that canal episode was such a classic. There were so many good parts of it. The Archie Shuttleworth involvement, the gaslighting of Audrey,
the
smacking
eulogy.
Patricia over the head.
Brilliant.
Should have stayed at the party.
Maxine.
I mean,
hitting Emily's force field of hairspray.
I'm so looking forward to getting back to seeing that again on the DVDs. It's going to be a while. It's going to be like the end of the year or early next year, I think, by the time we get there. But it should be fun.
Come to those who wait, darling.
Phil Jennings, he was a bit boring. He was a character that he had stuff to do. I think he ran an arcade or something in the early 90s or something. He got involved with Deirdre. Not that interesting particularly to me. I watched it, in the past couple of years on the repeats on ITV3, and he didn't really stand out to me. One. It's going to have to be a 1. Sorry, Phil. Didn't do it for me. John Lindsay. You haven't seen this story.
Nope.
Looking forward to you being able to watch this on the DVDs, but this gripped the nation. I mean, everyone was talking about the John Lindsay saga when Free the Weatherfield one hit the front pages of the newspapers. He was he was my earliest villain I remember watching on Coronation Street, so he's got a special place in my heart for that. He totally got me gripped when it was revealed that this guy who'd claimed to be a pilot to Deirdre and swept her off her feet was actually just a tie salesman. Was amazing.
The sad thing is there's more job security in being a tie salesman these days than there is being a pilot.
True, you still need a tie, don't you? Although for people working at home so much, maybe
Zoom
not.
ties.
Yeah, you need a good tie for Zoom, don't you? I can't remember a whole lot about his personality. He was slimy, but I don't think he was as iconically evil or charming as some of the other Coronation Street baddies. But yeah, the story itself was fantastic, and I think a 4 is very, very fitting for Mr. Lindsay here. Callum, more recent entry on the list.
Now, Callum really spent a lot of his time just being sleazy and going out with women and rubbing it in other women's faces and being horrible to his girlfriends and treating women like crap. Like dating Maria and Sarah.
Yeah, you got Sarah pregnant,
hanging around with Gemma and
Macca.
And menacing the Platts.
He was all right for a year. I think it was only about a year that he was in it.
It
never felt like,
for the year that he was in it. It was all Platts all the time, and he was one of the major antagonists.
Yeah,
So it
just
felt like
doesn't
it was
feel,
in your face.
you know, now we've had a bit of time past, it doesn't feel like he's up there anywhere near the upper echelons of Corrie villains.
The thing is about Coronation Street is that there's never a lot of actual drug dealing or drug taking in the show. There are people who are drug dealers, and then there's mentions of drugs, and every so often, you know, there might be a character who does, but for a drug dealer, not a lot of what he did was really involved with drugs. It just seemed to be being horrible to David and having a gun in his house.
Yeah, do you remember when Harry found the gun? Not Harry, sorry, Max found the gun. Harry's the actor. He was all right.
I think he's a 3.
I think he's a 3. I enjoyed his
The live
death.
episode was great when he died.
Yeah. Haunting Sarah from beneath the annex.
Brilliant.
But 3 I think is fair for Callum. He was all right. Maya, it's been so long since we've seen her. When was she around? Early 2000s?
I don't remember a lot about her, but I think it is very significant that she's one of the few female characters.
We've had Malone, and now we've got her.
Is a real proper Corrie villain who is unhinged and cool to watch.
And she was, I think she was straight away a villain, whereas Anne Malone, like I said earlier, was a nice, sweet, normal girl for quite a long time before she went crazy. Whereas I think I'm right in saying that Anne Malone was pretty nasty early on. She? I don't know how early she kidnapped Monica, for example.
Unlike, both these women got involved with kidnapping dogs and stealing dogs. And
who's the other one?
Maya. She had a dog and she gave something to do with the dog.
Yeah, that's what I said. Maya kidnapped Monica.
I thought you were talking about Anne Malone.
No, Anne Malone didn't kidnap.
I thought that was a bit weird when you said she kidnapped Monica.
No, Monica was not around.
Okay, right. So, the other thing about her is that she did a good snarl.
She did do an awesome snarl just before she drove her car into the wall.
I know what I was going to say. The most important thing about her to remember that everyone forgets is that she's not dead.
I know.
Everyone thinks she blew herself up in a car, but she didn't.
Absolutely bring her back. I mean, if I was a Corrie producer, I'd be thinking very hard about, pulling that one. That's the ace in my sleeve.
That Conor McIntyre said to us in one of our interviews we had with him about Pat Phelan, the character, and what the future of Coronation Street is without Pat, is that we need another Corrie villain, and really it's about time it was a woman. I wouldn't mind if they brought Maya back, but I prefer it if it was a new person. But she is the closest thing we've got to a really
proper villainous villain.
But the thing is, I said this before on the show, the agency that's given to men to be villains is not necessarily at women's disposal in Coronation Street. The way that men are villains is not the way that women are villains. And when you're comparing because we did our top trumps for Corrie villains podcast.
Yeah.
We didn't do women. We took them out because the women who are villains are just bitchy nags. And I don't think it's fair to compare a murderer to somebody who tells her husband to put his socks in the washing machine.
But they can be more. I mean, the other soaps have had some.
Yeah, other soaps have, but in Coronation Street, Maya, I keep saying Maya is one of the few people who even comes close.
Yeah. But even so, I don't think
very tame in comparison.
I don't think she's more than the 3.
I think the only woman who's killed anybody is that really Tracy.
Maybe. Well, we'll find out as we go down the list, don't we?
But do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, Anne Foster, of course.
Anne Foster killed her own kid. Yes, but you see what I'm saying? There's no comparison.
Yeah, you're right. Go on, 3 for Maya.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Next up is Dave Smith.
Oh, bloody hell, Dave Smith.
He whisked Blanche away to Kenilworth, didn't he? In the end. He was all right.
He's not really a villain, is he? He's just a bit of a ducker and a diver.
Back in the late 60s, early 70s, that's the closest they could get to a villain.
I think there's a definite difference between an antagonist and a villain.
He was an antagonistic... He was a bookie, wasn't he? And there was a story where he was going out with Irma Barlow and Hilda and Stan weren't having any of it. I don't remember a whole lot about it. He didn't particularly stand out, and certainly to put him alongside, Hillman, Phelan, even Tony Gordon, he's not having a look at him. That is not the face of a villain. He was just
Yeah, but we're not scoring him as a villain. We're also scoring him as a character.
Yeah,
but again, I can't give him a very high mark.
No, I mean, he stands out more than some of the absolute no names from there, which is why I think two probably fits with him. He had quite a distinct voice. I remember.
But unfortunately, we didn't see all the episodes, and a lot of the time we were like going, "Who's Dave Smith again?" And he talked about him quite a lot. I think he was a bit more significant than we give credit for.
Oh, look, it is a Corrie villain.
Kirsty Soames.
Yeah, she's ripe for a comeback, I think.
So now we've had 4 female Corrie villains.
No, we've had 3, haven't we?
We've had Kaz.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Kaz.
We've had
Kaz.
Kaz, Kirsty,
Anne,
Maya, and Anne. Yeah. And so one of them was white and the other 3 weren't.
Oh yeah.
Oops.
She was good. That was the big story when we started the podcast, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
That was just in its infancy.
So she was a police officer who
had a bit of a temper.
She always was a bit on the edge, wasn't she? And then and then she did something heroic when she helped them get the papers, and then she got fired.
Yeah, she was involved in the shutting down of Terry's nightclub, I think.
Yeah, but she did something she shouldn't have done.
I think that was it. I think that she snuck into the...
Yeah, and then she got fired, but then she got really resentful of Tyrone, and she ended up hitting him with a... Hoover cord or something.
Yeah. That was a really, really good story, and it gave Alan Halsall a real chance to shine as well. She
did redeem herself somewhat in the end, didn't she? Because she confessed on the stand.
Yeah, she let Tyrone get to court because they were going to get married, didn't she?
They got married, didn't they?
No, I don't think they didn't get married. I think they got to the church, and then she announced in front of everybody Tyrone's having it off with Fizz or something, and then then they had that scene where she fell down the stairs and accused Tyrone of pushing her, and that's why Tyrone was in court, and that's when Kirsty came and said, "Oh no, it was me, Gov. I'm the bad guy here," and we haven't seen her hide nor hair ever since. But she has blessed us with Ruby, and so you got to give her credit for that. I think
there's still plenty of time for her to come back in the show.
I think as a character, I think 3 is fair enough for Kirsty. I enjoyed her. I wouldn't mind seeing her again. I think there is more to tell with her. Stape.
Good old Stape.
Yeah, go on.
4.
I think you're right.
The most hapless of Corrie villains.
Yeah,
the most so fun. Clumsy oaf. That
kidnapping Rosie,
just everything,
accidentally killing Colin Fishwick's mum.
I'm sorry, I didn't
carrying dead Colin Fishwick in a roller carpet.
He reminds me of the scene in Austin Powers
in prison
when Austin turns on the revolving bed and keeps falling on Vanessa, going, "Oops, I fell over." Oops. Except this time he's got a knife in his hand and he's accidentally killing people every time.
Remember that time he jumped off the hospital and then survived?
Yeah. Pulled a Billy.
Oh dear, there's so many great John Stape moments. It was silly, but it was just it knew when not to go too far. It was
farcical, yeah.
It was farcical, but it didn't. It stayed just on the right side of ridiculousness for me.
For me as well, I thought it was great.
I know a lot of people. Well, some people think it was too silly, but I thought he was a really fun character.
He was great because he just just begging oh. Forgive me,
And he just came in it as an English teacher, didn't he? Oh, I remember the scene with the knickers at Christmas.
Mortifying.
Lots of great memories for John Stape. He's not a 5, is he? But yeah,
no, he's
4,
really
I think
good.
Is fine for him.
Charlie Stubbs,
look at that
meanie poo.
Scowl.
Now he was, I think, was he the first domestic abuser on Coronation Street where we actually acknowledged that was what he was doing? Because there was definitely domestic abuse going on in Coronation Street from the very beginning.
I think that was the first "this is domestic abuse" story.
Back in the day, it was fine to just hit your wife about a bit.
Maybe Alan Bradley might have been advertised or whatever as look at how abusive he's being, but
we had like Stan beating Hilda, we had Jim beating Liz, we've had.
Yeah, no, maybe that was I don't know.
I think this was the first time that Coronation Street tried to tackle it as its
been
own
affected
thing,
by
rather than this is just the drama of the situation.
Yeah.
Or like, here's something interesting about this couple that he beats her up.
Yeah.
Whereas this was like,
and Bill
this
Ward
guy
did do work with Women's Aid or something, didn't he?
And they went into the psychological aspects of this as well, rather than, isn't it sad?
Yeah. And he not only was he abusive towards Shelley, he was also a bit of a nasty piece of work generally, wasn't he?
Yeah.
You remember when he tried to drown David in the bath?
Who wouldn't?
Who else was he nasty to? He was just like he was smarmy, he was
slimy.
slick, he was slimy, but really great character. I enjoyed watching him. I think he is a great Corrie baddie, and his death, one of the most iconic Coronation Street villain deaths.
So
it really, really, really was grim.
Just his like dazed expression and
after the first thwack. 4?
Yeah,
4 for
Bill Ward also good sport.
Oh yeah, totally.
Carl Monroe,
is he a villain? He was just boring until they decided. He was, wasn't he? Is that a crime?
Did he kill Sunita?
Yeah, he set fire to the Rovers. Sunita nearly burned to death, but then when she was in hospital, he took out a tube and smothered her. But I don't know if we actually saw that. He was a really low key villain. I mean, we're not rating them as villains, remember? As a character, I mean,
not really memorable.
No,
sadly, poor Sunita.
I think we can't give him a 1.
No,
I think
not.
He's a 2. I think he's a definite 2.
That's
I didn't find him that interesting.
You can kill a woman
part
and get
of the
away with
Price
it
clan.
on this show.
Joe Carter. Nah.
Don't know.
I think I might have confused him with somebody else last week. Maybe he was the person that stole Rosie's money.
I don't know who this is.
I bet you can guess where he worked.
Factory.
He was a factory guy, yeah. Sorry, Joe Carter.
How do they manage to get
all
all these
merge
bland
into one.
businessmen in?
And
oh my
Jeffster,
God,
the great Magnifico. It's really hard to judge this one as he's in the middle.
I don't think
I
can give him a 5.
No, I don't think we can give him a 5
we
yet.
see his exit, and it might end up him being a 5, and it might not.
I don't
He's definitely
think.
a 4.
Do you think it's such a turnaround though, isn't it? Considering
God, he was such a nothing
with the
character.
first 6-9 months of his character, I was just like, get rid of him. This isn't working.
He's so boring.
He's so boring. Yeah, he's annoying. He's irritating. He thinks he's funny, but he's not. What Coronation Street doing with this guy? So the fact that he's been turned around so much and he's now being considered, could he possibly be a 4? It just goes to show what great storylining there's been. What great performance from Ian, from Shelley.
With such such a great person to play it up against as well. And there aren't very many villains who only had one victim. I mean, Kirsty was another one. But generally they tend to spread their villainy around
over a lot of
more.
people, don't they?
Whereas I think the creation of Geoff as a villain is really the work of him and Shelley King as his victim, making him such a compelling watch, and her reactions are part of what makes Geoff such a villain.
I think there's something else that makes Geoff stand out against some of these other villains. Is a lot of the other villains were strong characters and they were sturdy and tough, and Geoff's thing is he's weak. He's like the playground bully that has become that way because exactly. And that's fascinating to me.
A woman.
I don't think he will ever be a 5 for me. He's not quite up there with Hillman or Phelan, but the fact that they've turned his character around so much since he started, and they said that all along he was planned to go down this route. I don't know. I don't know.
Don't believe that.
But although it didn't take long for the first signs of something not quite right to appear, did it?
No, he was always a bit of a dick. A solid 4.
Okay, fine. I'll go with that. And I think our next one is our final. Yeah, look, 373. We've reached the end. You do know who Tanya Pooley is. You know the name.
I know that she's a barmaid that kept stealing people's boyfriends.
But yeah, that's basically it.
This is what I mean, Michael. When we talk about what it means to be a Coronation Street villain, okay? You've got a guy here who's murdered somebody and he's kind of forgettable. But this woman here, what has she ever done?
She was a bit of a cow to Raquel.
She was catty. And so she's a villain, and that's what Coronation Street, that's like the worst crime. This is what I say all along. People don't acknowledge this, but the worst crime a woman can commit is not being likeable. And you tell me that's not true. That's a fact.
She was.
That's why Hillary Clinton's not president now.
She was a schemer. She was really bitchy. She was nasty to Raquel. She took advantage of Raquel's, not. That Raquel was never the brightest bulb in the box, and Tanya took advantage of that. She made fun of her. She was also sleeping with Dez behind Raquel's back. Having recently watched her story on ITV3, I found it dragged. I don't think Tanya gripped me as much as she has done other Coronation Street viewers for the time. Although the episode where it all comes out and Raquel realises what's going on was really fantastic, but she's going to be a 2 for me. Sorry, Tanya Pooley fans. And it feels sad to end our 373rd character on a bit of a downer. But on the whole, I've very much enjoyed saving the villains till last. And, the whole process, we've been through every single regular character, Gemma, that Coronation Street has ever had.
That's crazy.
This is soon to be outdated because they keep on adding new characters every year. But I think it's I think we've achieved something
and
here.
I tell you something also, I'm very proud of myself that the amount of times I've said I don't know who that is not anywhere near as high as it would have been if we'd done this at the beginning of the year.
Exactly, it's all tied in very nicely.
I'm starting to fill up all my gaps. I've still got massive gaps of like 80s and 90s.
Yeah,
but I'm definitely
you're on your way there, Gemma, to becoming a Coronation Street super nerd.
Oh no.
Thank you so much to Corriepedia for putting this survey together. You've given us plenty of hours worth of entertainment and helped us provide content to our listeners and viewers. Now, this is obviously a YouTube exclusive. I've very much enjoyed it in this series. Lots and lots of fun, and thank you to everyone over the 8 weeks that we've been doing this who has
2 months worth of
written in and
babbling
said how
on
much they've enjoyed
and hours and hours and hours and hours of talking about.
I'm certainly not intending to have a special YouTube exclusive video every week, but as a little side project to do.
Well, as part of the 60th anniversary, what?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Better way of
and maybe the opportunity to do something similar to this will come up again. Who knows?
Maybe in 10 years' time.
Hopefully before that.
I worked out that we're going to be, if Coronation Street carries on going, and we live to see it, we'll be 77 when it's the 100th anniversary of Coronation Street.
Oh, I hope we're still alive to see it. See,
that would be quite amazing.
Well, I want to stay a little bit longer than that, 6 years longer than that, and then we get the 1,000-year anniversary of the Battle of Hastings. That would be quite special.
When I was younger, I was totally obsessed with the fact that I would be alive for the Battle of Hastings. 1,000th year anniversary. Anyway, we're not talking about Hastings
that.
right now.
Thank you so much, everybody, for listening and watching and enjoying and voting, and tell us what you think as well. Don't forget to go and vote in this poll if you haven't done so already.
Yes, and I've got to actually register these
You do,
scores.
because we've been recording this over many weeks and Gemma hasn't recorded her score, so you've got to go back and do all 373 again. I hope you remember what you voted for, Gemma.
I remember distinctly every single one.
Right, I think we're done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, everybody.
I can't wait for the results. Are we going to do a video about the results?
Well, we will have to do something. Yeah, it'd be remiss of us not to.
Right, okay.
Right,
we'll see you then.
We are done. Thanks for watching, everyone, and a huge thank you to Corriepedia for organising this great survey. It's been a load of fun to do and wonderful to hear everyone's feedback as well on the videos. If you haven't liked and subscribed yet, please do, and check out our podcast as well. Now to go and find a towel.